2022 Urbandale City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Blake? Here. Carberry Montgomery? Here. Kroll? Here. McBurney?
Here.
Obrecht?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So, second.
Motion by Blake, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 3 is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to speak to the council tonight on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda. I know we have a number of folks that want to speak, so if I'm going to just, I know I've got a few names here. I'm just going to start off with Mr. Greenway, Robert Greenway. I'll recognize you first. If you want to come up and speak, I'll let you speak now.
Thank you.
You could just give your.
Can I have 5 minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Robert Greenway. I'm a Democratic candidate for the Dallas County
Mr.
Supervisor
Greenway,
District 1.
I'm sorry, if you could just give your address for the record too, just so we have that.
Okay, address is 417 7th Street in Menlo, Iowa. It will soon be Granger, 1901 Locust Street in Granger. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, you have been redistricted, if you didn't know that, into District 1. Clive and Urbandale, at the present time, your county supervisor is Brad Golightly. Several city councils did not know that. Some may remember me. I was a key promoter in the local option sales tax 4 years ago. That's when I met Mayor Bob for the first time. Neither him or I could probably pick each other out of the crowd, so I apologize. This passed across Dallas County, which was a big shock to me because we didn't have time. We found out we're supposed to go across the county. It was basically in DeSoto, Redfield, Perry, et cetera, that needed to keep the money going. This local option sales tax, as most of you well know, has provided an economic impact for repairing streets, capital expenditure loans, parks, paying off a lot of things, doing a lot of good. I'm very proud. You all get $2.9 million from the Dallas County side. It is significant. It's over 20 million to close to 24 million across the whole county, which I'm very proud of and very happy. There's been a lot of good done. So it was worked. And Mayor Bob, I appreciate past. Who was on the council at that time? Do you know any of these?
None of us.
None.
Okay. We had to get 2,600 signatures, and it was not fun. The county supervisors could have put it on the ballot without that problem. Same significant county supervisors then are still the same ones this time. They're getting 6 million. This is something I want the council to be aware of. Their share is now 6 million. Half of that goes to tax relief. The other goes to capital expenditures. The county jail bond is in 2 parts. In 2023, $8 million bond will come up for early payoff. This can be either under capital expenditures or property tax relief. Any of you have access to the county supervisors or there, you might bring that to their attention. I personally think, based on the cash flow, that $8 million bond could be paid off before the next one comes due in 2025. It's not due, excuse me, but it's subject to early payoff too in 2025. It's $7.5 million. Anyway, this would cut down at least 5 years, if at all possible. I am basically making sure that as many city councils are aware of that, and it does make a significant difference in tax levies. The other is a small deal, but it's closer to home, west. There is a movement, which I'm part of, to go to from 3 county supervisors to 5. We are still trying to work the wording of the petition to submit it to the Secretary of State. I wanted you all to be aware of that too. I thank you for your time. My name is Robert Greenway, and am I allowed to give my telephone number?
Sure, go ahead.
515-710-4558. I don't change, and my email is down. I just changed phones 2 days ago, and it whacked everything. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Greenway. All right, Vern, did you want to speak? I'll recognize you next if you want to.
Vern Millsap, Bestland, Urbandale. I wanted to come and just because I'm really confused. I don't come that often. I mean, I come often, but I don't say no. Anyway, I would keep pretty good track of what's going on. Not here, but overall. But I wanted to know, we did that pool not long ago, and then we voted for a $40,000 pool. Well, I'm sorry, but with all the bills of money that we have gotten, and I'm not saying us, but I know it's been appropriated around, infrastructure bill, COVID relief bill, American Rescue Plan, and then the American Rescue Plan in the agenda was changed to 7 local fiscal recovery plan. I didn't know what that was all about. Also, I seen where we're doing the income allowance for people and maybe new housing to go with the $500 a month they're gonna give everybody. So, and again, what I said is that I felt that we should use that money for infrastructure, just like he said, where people, lots of people benefit from it. I'm not against helping the low income, but if all this money is going to be appropriated kind of like to that, then why not the average taxpayer? Where do we lie in all of this money? And if I'm right, all these bills in the last 2 years. So, but the reason I brought up the pool is I thought that would probably fit into the infrastructure as well. And we did, the council did voting about $40,000 to get this survey pushed through. And I'm going, well, I don't know how that ended up, the vote, but I know that that could probably be improved in this infrastructure money or the relief money anyway as infrastructure. So you got more police, which is good, but they need a good salary for them to stay. Fire department, all kinds of salt trucks, whatever, sand trucks. I mean, we could buy all kinds of stuff. So that's really, I just wanted to know if we got money from all those relief bills and if we're gonna do anything for the average taxpayer, or are we just gonna do low income and that's it? But I think the average taxpayer should get something too. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. All right, is there anyone else, like, I know Leo, okay, I'll recognize you next, so Leo, I'll get to you after that, so. Not yet, Leo, we'll get to you next.
Hello, my name is Sean Mansfield. I live at 3904 79th Street. I wanted to raise a concern after attending the August 9th council meeting regarding the new UTV and ATV law that was passed into law in Iowa in July. During the August 9th council meeting, the law in Urbandale regarding ATVs and UTVs was discussed with the intent to clarify Urbandale City Code to limit UTV use for only parades and city services. Per the discussion, the new law was phrased as now allowing ATVs and UTVs to be operated on gravel roads. It was my understanding that the Iowa law had always allowed ATVs and UTVs prior to the July change, and per the new law, an ATV or UTV may be operated on undivided two-lane highways between any of the following locations: an all-terrain park, a secondary or gravel road, city streets that are authorized for operation, and the vehicle operator's residence. With the operator being required to be 18 years of age, have financial liability coverage, a valid driver's license, follow posted speed limits with the max operating speed of 35 miles an hour, and the UTV equipped with safety equipment. Safety was the main concern raised for allowing UTVs operation on city streets, but some of the safety features on a UTV are of higher standard than motorcycles and mopeds that are allowed on city streets. Some of those features are seat belts. Mine in particular, you can't go over 10 miles an hour unless you have your seatbelt on, so you're always going to be buckled up. Roll bars, brake lights, headlights, mirrors, horns, and turn signals. I was one of the residents who contacted Urbandale Police and the Polk County Sheriff when this law went into effect to ensure I was following the law. When I read the Urbandale City Code and found it did not include UTVs, I contacted the City Clerk of Urbandale to clarify, who said she would reach out to the City Attorney to review. That might have ended with our August 9th bringing this up. I fully support Urbandale as creating limitations on where ATVs and UTVs can be ridden, but with Iowa having one of the largest collections of gravel and B roads of the state, I would encourage the City Council of Urbandale to determine a set roads within city limits that would allow its residents to connect with those secondary roads system of Iowa, enjoy without the need to trailer your ATV or UTV to one of our adjoining towns. And I have the printed law if you'd like it.
Okay, I believe we have that too, so yeah,
Okay,
we're actually
so-
going to be having further discussion on that.
Okay,
too,
well,
so.
thank you.
Okay, appreciate your comments, thank you. All right, Leo, it's your turn now.
God, you made it sound like I'm gonna shoot somebody. Gonna kill me. Where do I put this?
You can put it right there on that white, where the white box is, and then we can go down on it, yep. Put it right there,
Right there?
right there.
Okay.
Give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, folks. My name is Leo Hayda. I live at 8008 Goodman Drive, which is right there.
All right, we need to get that on the screen.
And,
Hang on a second.
For 32 years.
We need to get, we need just a second to get it on the
How you
screen.
doing, champ?
Good, how are you, sir? Scott, she's got it. Oh, she's got it. Okay, she's going that way. Okay.
I got it. Thank you very much.
You move it down just a little bit,
I live
Leo.
right here. And
Move the paper down just a little bit.
32 years
There we go.
down there like that.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay. And I have tonight with me retired Major Michael Bassard from the Iowa National Guard. He's a neighbor at 4601, and he lives right here. Several neighbors wanted to come and speak. As everybody have knowledge of what's going on in Sheraton Heights Parks right now? Well, if you don't, right now we have a great thing happen. There's 2 layers of asphalt being peeled off the red line trails. They're going to be redone in 10-foot wide concrete, 5 inches thick. It's a great thing. Dave McKay and I talked about this 10 years ago. It's finally happening. The point is, every street in Meredith Park, storm sewer water drains into here. It comes down Parkview, 80th Place, like a bat out of hell, and goes through. It peeled about 20 feet off of the asphalt park trail here. Now, all we're gonna do is ask for one simple thing. You have a lot of floodwater money. Steve, AJ, don't frown at me like that.
Just looking at the picture, I can't see it. I'm sorry.
I've known AJ for a long time, him and Dave Johnson. Anyway, this section right here, going up to here, that's 40 yards. And from here over to the corner is 70 yards. It's 110 yards of concrete. We stopped short, folks. We need to continue the trail. The trail gets a lot of use, and the flood water goes over the top of, and goes down that trail into the retention basin. So, as we used to do down at the city of Des Moines, and we try to work with the treasurer and the city, Cy Carney, and old George Flagg, he'd say, dig. So I'm gonna ask you to dig, find some money. So let's get this finished. We have a lot of traffic, a lot of good traffic of families and everybody else that uses it. But this is floodwater area, and I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. the Major, and it's his turn.
All right, thank you, Leo.
How'd I do?
Good evening, Mike Bassard. I live at 4605 80th Place. I guess just to clarify, these sections from here to here is asphalt, and we'd like to see it being concrete. Same with the one over here on Meredith, the 70 yards here. Out of the 6 entrances into this project, 4 of them end up in concrete, except these two entrances end up in asphalt. You're gonna be coming back in about 3, 4, 5 years. You're gonna dig it up at that point in time, and it's gonna cost more money than it would now. So we just ask that you take a look, see if you can find funding to do it now versus in 5 or 6 years. I think it'd be cheaper, but sat on your side of the on the desk, so I know how tough it is, but thanks.
All right.
Yeah, anything
Great
else?
job. Anyway, the one last thing. If you don't do it now, while the contractor is there, and you don't come back for 2 or 3 years to finish it, it's gonna cost you 3 times what it is now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leo.
Say hello to hubby for me.
I will. We work together at the city of Des Moines.
All right, is there anyone else like to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda? All right, we will move on then. Item 4 is to adopt the minutes first from the August 9 meeting. Is there a motion?
Sorry. Second.
Motion by Blake, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. Leo doesn't have a quiet. Okay, that passes. Then from the August 16 lunch and learn. Move to approve. Motion by Obrecht, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Item 5 is the consent agenda, and I neglected when we approved the agenda, but I neglected to note the item 5.6 regarding, or excuse me, item 5.5 regarding the ProBio firm exemption is pulled for tonight, and that'll be on our next agenda. And we're going to pull item 5.6 for separate discussion. So with the balance of that, then I would ask for a motion for approval.
Move to approve consent agenda minus 5.5 and 5.6.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that item passes. And then we'll discuss item 5.6 regarding the bike and rec vehicles. Who's going to start us off?
We had a request that we look at an amendment. I think that, I believe that was shared with the city clerk, and if she can, if no, can you read that amendment that had been suggested, or do you have
Yes.
that? Thank you.
Yes, we had a request to change the section 4 on ordinance 2022-11 for Title 7, Chapter 75, sorry, stumbling over my words there, to city-approved events, that all terrain vehicles, off-road utility vehicles, off-road motorcycles, and golf carts shall be allowed to operate on city streets and parks during participation in a city-approved event, but shall be restricted to the designated area, operate at speeds of 10 miles per hour or less, and shall be always operated by a person with a valid driver's license.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Any questions on that? Adam, did you want to comment?
Yeah,
on
so I was the one that brought this up, and just, there seem to be enough other events in the community, not just the 4th of July parade, that uses golf carts to get people to and from doors, or band festivals that haul equipment around that, well, that's ones that I could think of, and I'm sure there'll be more over time, as vehicles become more available. Talked to the chief, he thought this worked well. It still allows them to do what they need to do with it. And having it city approved, it doesn't have to be a council approved. It could be a park and rec, it could be a police approved. That was the language that was kind of talked through with AJ and the chief, so.
Okay. Any further discussion? Is there a motion then to approve the second reading as amended?
Moved for the second reading as amended.
A motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Kroll. Any further discussion?
Just real quick, are we gonna update the title of it from parade to city events then? Because
Yeah, so instead of
wanna
it saying
make sure
parades, it'll say city events.
city events, okay.
Yeah, city approved events will be,
A bit more inclusive.
Yep. Okay.
and if 4th of July ever decides to do a city event instead of a parade, we're still covered.
All right.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right, please vote then. All right, that passes on the second reading. Thank you. Item 6, public hearings. We have several. First is item 6.1 is a public hearing on the Urbandale Marketplace 2, Lot 1, Urbandale Marketplace Plat 3, and Urbandale Marketplace Outlot C, and Urbandale Marketplace Plat 2 amendment to the comp plan and plan unit development master plan at 10500 to 10715 Plum Drive. The public notice for this was published in the August 12, 2022 Des Moines Register. Unless there are any objections to that, notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. And to introduce this is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. So this is a PUD amendment that involves a parcel in Urbandale Marketplace 2, which is basically everything east toward 100th Street of this line right here. And then there is one 2-acre parcel that was kind of a remnant piece that's behind the Home Depot. This is the existing Home Depot that's from the original Urbandale Marketplace, so that's why it's included, made a really long title there. What is proposed is a mixed-use commercial, multifamily, and townhome development with a maximum density of 23 units per acre. Right now, code by right is 20 units per acre and a maximum height of 55 feet. So what you see here is a conceptual plan. Should you approve this tonight, obviously they will come back with a site plan, but this is a conceptual plan for what is proposed. And it includes 2 retail parcels with frontage up on Plum Drive, on the south side of Plum Drive, that would each have to have a minimum of a 1-acre size. And then behind that, on another parcel, would be a 4-story, primarily apartment building. There would be about 16,500 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. And then the remainder of the building would be a mix of 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. And then back here in the back is approximately 33 townhome units that would be at the back of the parcel. And then Outlot C, which is this 2-acre piece, but directly behind Home Depot, would be included in all of this, and that would be the area where they would have a variety of outdoor amenities for the residents that would live there. So currently, this particular PUD does not allow for any residential uses. We do have residential immediately adjacent to the south in a couple of different residential developments that have been there for quite some time. So today, residential isn't allowed, but as noted in the staff report, when you consider that we do have existing residential immediately to the south, the fact that the proposed structure does not look like your typical apartment building, I can show you what that looks like here in just a second. The increased setback of the structure from Plum Drive and from the south property line, and the fact that the inclusion of some commercial space on the ground floor probably does say that it is justified to allow some limited residential use in this particular area. It's almost kind of a domino effect where we finally have some things happening in this corridor. We allow some density with something like this that does have some commercial space with it, kind of can then feed what's there today, and then I think will probably spur some additional retail that we want in this corridor to be able to happen. And so all in all, we've been meeting with this developer for months on this, trying to get something that we felt like we could be comfortable recommending to you and that he would be comfortable to build. And we feel like we finally got to that point. And then, as you know, Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of it. Wanted to show you the elevation, just so you can see what that looks like, because it is, it's very clean. If you saw in the P&Z minutes, Nick Jensen, who is here tonight, that will be developing and building this project. It's a very clean-looking building. There's no railings. It does not have your typical residential look. It actually looks more like an office building. And so that's one of the things that we at staff felt like we could get behind as well. Plus, like I said, the fact that you're going to have somewhere 16 to 17,000 feet of commercial space on the ground floor of this building as well. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, when you get to proponents, like I said, Nick is here and I'm sure can answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions from the council for Steve at this point?
I guess the amenity space, I'm assuming that's more for residents, not full community access.
Correct.
Hence why there's no trail access to the south or anything that way to connect in with the other neighborhood.
Correct. We wanted to make sure, there's some trade-offs with this location. You're going to hear some interstate traffic. You've got a Home Depot next door to you. So you can make an argument it's not a traditional residential setting, but part of how you offset that, in addition to the quality of the interior space, is to have the pool and then also have some separate outdoor amenities for the residents that live in this building or in these townhouses to be able to use. That and the fact that it's just kind of a leftover 2-acre piece, so what else is going to happen with it? So
Right. Yeah, and it's more thinking about walkability, think about bikeability to the south and to the, kind of connecting Meredith to Plum. This would be obviously an area that it would be nice to see some connectivity through there, but it's not so much a requirement, it's just I don't know when we get back to a final plan if connectivity makes sense to go through here or not.
Yep, and it is mentioned in the P&Z minutes, to the south might work. There is also a requirement to screen back here, so we're gonna need to look at the grades and get in this a little bit deeper to see if that connection to the south could actually happen. That's something we can discuss at the time of site plan. Short of that, what we did put in this is that wherever any of these residential units are gonna be, there definitely needs to be a sidewalk that gets out to Plum so that people can then either go east or west to take advantage of the retail opportunities to purchase goods, are there. So south yet to be determined. Definitely we'll make sure we can get everybody up to Plum and then they can go either way to buy things.
Is that a stub street on the south? Or just
Here?
Yes.
Yep, yeah, the old PUD talked about the possibility of maybe that coming through or putting a turnaround, and with this being proposed now, the recommendation is gonna be just let that stay as is. It's got the turnaround in there and leave it be. That's what everybody's used to.
Will this have any fencing around that amenity space?
That's a question Nick could probably answer for you when he comes up. I don't know.
I'm just thinking of issues with people who come in and use amenities and aren't.
From a practical standpoint, would probably make sense, but I'll let Nick address that.
That's probably, that would be more of the site plan level.
Correct,
Right.
and that would be something we would cover at time of site plan. Yep.
All right, any further questions for Steve? If not, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay. John, I'll get to you in a minute here. We'll let him speak. Go ahead.
Hi, Nick Jensen. I live at 14914 Brookview Drive here in Urbandale. I'm with Caliber, Iowa. Steve did a great job with an overview on some of the generics of this project. We're excited to bring this to Urbandale, and it's a significant project and investment for us. We, like Steve said, worked for multiple months here and just kind of bringing the idea to something that made sense overall, and so keeping those commercial components up front along Plum, still including commercial as part of our building. And then as you wrap to the south, kind of just in finishing the lot up and not having some excess space like what is behind Home Depot, we decided on townhomes, which would be a complementing use to the development that exists to the south. As far as fencing goes, the amenity around the pool area and the building itself will be fenced, and that'll have we have a key fob access for all residents to be able to go to and from there. The amenity space is as far as the 2-acre parcel is somewhat undefined. There will definitely be some form of a dog park, which will have a fenced-in area. A lot of the residents have dogs, and so that'll be a big focus in that overall area is some form of a dog park, and that'll be a fenced-in portion, certainly. Happy to answer any questions. This project, if you're familiar up in Ankeny, we're finishing and just opened a project on 36th Street, which is a similar type build, looks out over the Otter Creek Golf Course. So 4-story, we're aiming to build an apartment-style living that has as many connected amenities as possible. So underground parking, elevators, the pool area, fitness is inside. There's a big entry and community room. And with that, we're building in a overall envelope. Like Steve said, we have no perimeter balconies, so very clean exterior look, and just aiming to build a building that the tenants are proud of and has as much visibility as possible, which was something we really like about this lot. That 36th Street project we have is filling up very quickly and very well received because it's a good looking building and people recognize it, and it's becoming somewhat of a landmark. I'm happy to answer any questions you all would have.
What would be your time frame on building this?
You know, so these projects take quite a bit to build. There's a pretty big lead time in the components of an underground parking structure. So we would likely hit full design this fall and into the winter, come out of the ground in the spring. The lead time on a precast component for parking structures about 9 months right now. So we target receiving that sometime in the summer, and it's about a 2-year total build once we start. So we'd be looking to open the summer of 2025.
Seems like a long time from now, but that's just my own thing. But no, I mean, it sounds like you're ready to start the ball rolling, though.
Yeah, so, I mean, that big building is over 5 acres under one roof, so each floor is about 1 acre. So it's a really substantial structure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how many, maybe I missed it in there, so how many apartments and how much space and how many rooms do you anticipate this having?
So we haven't given our final commitment to how many 1-bedrooms versus 2-bedrooms. It'll be somewhere in that 200 unit range. The building in Ankeny is 185, so it'd be just a little bit bigger than that.
Do you have a rough idea of price point?
Yeah, so we have the target is that 1- and 2-bedroom user. So your singles and some doubles, some couples. There's certainly a rent range we have based on view and unit size. The least expensive unit would be in that $1,000 a month range, up to $2,000 a month.
Adjusted for inflation for 2025.
Maybe that'll go backwards.
Maybe.
All right. Any further questions for Nick?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. John, I'll recognize you next. You want to comment on this?
John Hollebrand, 4217 86th Street here in Urbandale. And all I wanted to say was, as a longtime booster of Urbandale development, I'm absolutely overjoyed to see this project. Wonderful. Very glad to see it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, John. All right, is there anyone else like to address the council on this item? Vern, go ahead. Yeah.
Smart. Vern Millsap, Besselman. I forgot one of the points I was going to go over when I was up here, which is one thing, as far as Besselman, that made me mad is the 200-foot rule that's probably been
Keep your
existing.
comments, I need to have you keep your comments germane to this item.
Do what?
You need to comment on this item, not just come up here to speak. If you're talking about, are you have any comments specific to this item?
It's in general to construction, if
Do you have
I
any-
may.
No, this is a public hearing on this item.
Okay,
I need to
well,
have your comments, if you don't have any comments related to this,
I wanted to know who's going to have access to this pool, just the people that live there? And then, again, apartments. My God, when's it going to stop?
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else like to address the council on this item? Okay. With that, then, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. Then there are 2 items for consideration.
Move the amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. I'll just pick. That passes.
And move the amendment to the Urbandale Marketplace and Marketplace 2 PUD master plan.
Okay, motion by Obrecht, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Thank you. We're looking forward to it. It looks great. So thank you for your investment. Appreciate it. All right, item 6.2 is a public hearing to consider the sanitary sewer right-of-way easement vacation for Lot 1, Urbandale Marketplace 3, Plat 4 at 10591 Meredith Drive. The public notice for this was published in the August 12th Des Moines Register. Ask any objections to that notice is published. Ask for motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Steve?
Okay, this is a case of just getting rid of a piece of easement that we do not need. So this is Meredith Drive. This is the private access drive that runs to the north. The foam car wash is located right here on the south side of Meredith. And this is an existing sanitary sewer easement that runs along the south side of Meredith. What we would be vacating is about 229 feet long and 30 feet wide. And the reason that we would vacate it, so again, here's Meredith Drive. This is the shared private road. The car wash is right there. The sanitary sewer service comes along here. They're actually going to grab it right at this location here. This is for the previously approved Premier Credit Union. So their sanitary sewer service is going to come into the building like that. So we don't need this piece of the sewer anymore. The advantage of vacating this is that you get a potential sign, some pavement, and some landscaping out of an easement. And it's not needed since they're going to grab the service right there. So staff recommends approval of the resolution and the ordinance to vacate. Be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on this?
I mean, if this is ever redeveloped, they're not gonna, I assume you've thought about that in the future, but nothing to the west and nothing on this property would ever need that.
Everything to the west will be served from another sewer that comes from the west. Should not be any need that we would ever need it here. Even if they replat it into a bigger lot, something different, they could still grab the access from the sewer that's coming this direction. So.
All right. We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay. There's a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. 2 items here.
I just have a comment that's generally unrelated, but for those of us that are geographically challenged, this would be a great one to have like a vicinity map on. Well, I mean, or
Foam
more
car
descriptive terms, across the street from foam car wash.
Yeah, I actually thought about that when the packet was done. And
Yeah.
I thought about, at one time, I thought about including the site plan for this credit
Well,
union.
yeah, I mean, that would have been, I mean,
That's, yep.
I just need more.
There's the target.
See, that's, I mean, that's a great picture right there. So,
Duly noted.
but I would.
I'm still
with-
in her camp too, so.
But if that could be included in the stuff that's sent out to us.
Yep.
So with that, I would move approval of resolution 219-2022.
Motion by Carby Montgomery,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Or the McDonald's cut through.
Yes, there it is.
I'll move approval of the first reading of ordinance 2022-14.
Motion by Carby Montgomery. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, thank you. Item 6.3 is a public hearing to consider the public sidewalk easement vacation for Lot 14 Gulfview Estates Plat 3 at 4112 Gulfview Circle. The public notice this was published in the August 5, 2022 Des Moines Register, and has any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion and a second to open this.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Steve?
Okay, this is the third of our sidewalk easement vacations. See, I am trying to listen. I had a pretty picture for the first one and for this one, so I'll make sure I have it for all of it next time. But this is the lot 4112 Gulfview Estates. Same situation where we have a 20-foot easement, 10 feet on each side of the property line along the rear, and in this case, the side property lines, and you can see the existing trail that's there. They would like to construct a fence. Actually, I think in this one, it's replace a fence. Replace a fence. So if we vacate 6 feet along the rear line and 6 feet along the sideline, that gets us to where we have our typical 3-foot clearance from the edge of the trail to the new fence, and will accomplish our policy. So staff recommends approval of the resolution and the ordinance to vacate this one. We did, Adam, I think last time you brought up if we have a number of these in the area, we talked about that again, and we decided, you know what, let's stick with that, and kind of what we're thinking is, if we have two kind of in the same area, okay, but once we get the request for that third one, we'll kind of look at it and see if it makes sense to vote, do it a whole area there. So we'll try that strategy and see how that works.
All right, thank you, Steve. Questions for Steve on this item? All right, we are in public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Resolution 222-2022.
Motion by Blake. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion, first reading of ordinance 2022-15.
Yeah, motion by Blake. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thank you. Moving on, item 6.4 is to public hearing to consider the development agreement with Aurora Business Park 2 LLC. The public notice for this is published in the August 12, 2022 Des Moines Register, and any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
For motion to open this.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And introducing this is our Assistant Economic Development Director, Aaron DeYoung. Aaron?
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Aaron DeYoung with the Economic Development Department. This first of two development agreements on the council's agenda this evening is with Aurora Business Park 2 LLC. This is for a rehabilitation of a building at 4114th Street. Up on the screen is a map to show the area. This is the first of the Aurora Business Park buildings. The one-story buildings there just north of the extended stay hotel here at the interchange of Douglas and 8035. So with this, Aurora Business Park LLC is an R&R Realty entity. This is one of the original buildings in that park. Picture of it is right here on the page. And they want to rehabilitate most of the building to facilitate the tenancy of AMBA and their 200 employees into the building. So significant tenant improvements are planned for this building to have them be a tenant in the building. So with this is a 3-year 90% TIF rebate on the improved value of the building. And so some of the main terms so that you know is that the tenant would have 200 jobs at the start of the lease. It would be a 5-year lease is a requirement of that to show that there's a long-term tenancy there. Also, we'll get an affidavit showing some of the other key terms of the lease so that we know what's going on. And then also, as all development agreements have, is to provide those annual certifications so that we know the tenancy as it goes through time. With the 3-year 90% TIF rebate, that is the rehabilitation incentive in our Northwest Market Center. So it's one of our already baked incentive policies. We're estimating that the improvements to the building will increase the building's value by $2 million. And then doing the calculation on the 3-year 90, that'd be a little over $150,000 in TIF rebates to be earned with these improvements. Simple presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you go back one slide?
Of course.
The annual certifications, is that for employment numbers?
Yeah, so we see the employments from that. This is to be signed by the property owner to do those, so we'll get those numbers every year.
And then kind of a general question, now that we're seeing more work from home or work from home options, does that go into how you calculate this? Or does the fact that AMBA employs 200 people out of this location regardless of where they work from?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be difficult as we go through time on figuring out, and not to be crass, but to have the butts and seats calculation. It's going to be hard to do that over time, so that there isn't a requirement. There's actual people, unlocking the door at this building, but that there is 200 people, being assigned to this facility. Similar to we do with many other companies in that, like John Deere, like Mercer. It's kind of what's their home office? Where is their spot if they had to go into the office? And that's how we're kind of utilizing that to adjust with the times.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess I had a question, but the $2 million increase, but that's over the 1999 value. How much of an increase over current value are we thinking?
The current value on the building, you're testing me here. I believe it's about $3 million of actual value. It's gone down significantly because it's been vacant for several years. And so we're expecting it to go back up to about $5 million of valuation. And so then the floor is the $3 million from the 1999 value because the building was already built when the TIF district was formed.
Okay. And the current valuation is about that $3 million, about the same as it was in 99?
Yeah, it's actually lower than the 1999 value.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, it's about $500,000 lower than the 1999 value right now.
Okay.
The building component, the land component has increased.
Yep.
All right. Any further questions? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Motion by McBurney, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. Item 6.5 is public hearing to consider the development agreement for CenterPoint Business Park 2 LLC. The public notice for this was published in the August 12, 2022 Des Moines Register. Any objections to that notice is published?
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Aaron?
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this development agreement, the second on tonight's agenda, is for CenterPoint Business Park 2 LLC. The address of the building that we're looking at in this agreement is at 103, 10300 North Park Drive. When it gets to 5 digits, it.
Don't ask Matt to do it.
Here's a vicinity map. This is at the 100th Street interchange. And this is the first constructed building of a 4-building industrial flex campus that R&R Realty is looking at doing. There was a PUD amendment was done last year to go, so things are starting to roll with this. I should note that this building is already under construction. One of the things that we're trying to do with our development agreements is to group them together. This is eligible for our standard incentive policy, so we wanted to find another development agreement to go with it, so that's why we're doing 2 here tonight. This is a concept drawing of the building that's under construction. It's a 212,000 square foot flex building that would be leased to non-commercial and industrial businesses. This is one of the product types in the commercial real estate industry that's is doing really well, and to have more in Urbandale would be great for us in our leasing and attraction activities that we do every day in economic development. So looking at the main agreements, this is a simple one because it's the standard TIF rebate development. That would be the construction of the building with a completion date by the end of June next year, and then the annual certifications like we do in all of them. Again, this is the 5-year standard decreasing structure with that there on the screen. We are estimating that this would be a $12 million building once it's constructed. The building value, not the total assessed value. And then doing the calculation of the decreasing rebate structure, $765,000 in TIF rebates could be earned should they meet that valuation standpoint. So again, another simple presentation. Happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Aaron.
I just have one quick one, and I don't know if you're the right person to answer this. So north of 8035 in our Urbandale strip there, it's just that this upper corner is the only industrial zoned area, or is there any other industrial zoned area north of that?
Yeah, so on the North Park corridor you're talking about? Yeah, so these 4 buildings are the only industrial flex buildings that are currently zoned, Steve. Those are the 4. That would be everything else is commercial zoning right now.
And then there's intention that you referenced that all 4 are already have plans for being built, or just this?
Yeah, so the site, no, not a site plan because we're doing them individually, but the PUD is envisioning that it'd be 4 buildings north to south with good looking facades from the outside looking in.
Okay, thank you.
So this is one of the middle buildings.
All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then there's a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Is there a motion on the item?
I'll move to approve resolution 212-2022.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes, and that takes us to the end of our public hearings. Item 7, planning and zoning items. We have one, is item 7.1, is to consider suspend the rules on the second reading and approve the third reading of ordinance 2022-13. Steve, do you have anything further you want to add on this?
This was one of our 2 vacations from last time, and they're anxious to start building their fence, so they just wanted to request the waive. We have no objections.
All right. So with that, as for motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on the ordinance 2022-13.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. passes.
And then motion to waive the second and approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2022-13.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Sorry. Didn't want to take it.
All right, that passes. Item 8, regular agenda items. First is item 8.1 is to consider the 28E agreement for Mid-Iowa Health Foundation Central Iowa Basic Income Pilot Project. BJ?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Earlier this year, council held a series of public hearings to receive public comments on how the public, any ideas they had on the expenditure of recently received ARPA funds. One of the presenters at the May meeting was Dr. Johnson from the Mid-Iowa Health Foundation, and she recently recontacted the city to see if there was any opportunity to make a formal request for economic support for the Central Iowa Basic Income Pilot Project. At the May meeting, Dr. Johnson explained the project to the council, and she is back tonight to make a formal request for funding from the ARPA dollars to support this project. Dr. Johnson is here in the audience tonight, and she'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, in addition to what her presentation was on the program in May of this year. Included in the material that was included in your packet is the formal request from her organization for a contribution of $100,000 from the ARPA dollars. And again, Dr. Johnson is here to answer any questions you may have specific to her request, specific to the request, or the program and the guidelines associated with that.
I have a question for Dr. Johnson. Thank you for coming. So this is a multi-county project. How can we promote this in Urbandale to increase the likelihood that participants from Urbandale are picked for the project?
So if you recall, it is a randomized controlled trial study that allows us to be able to more scientifically discuss what impacts we see based upon the study findings. What that means is we'll have 110 individuals who are selected to receive the monthly income and 140 who will be in that control group where they're used as that point of comparison regarding outcomes. There's no way to guarantee any specific community that through the process of randomization, a certain percentage of community members may be selected. However, our approach for participant recruitment is to work with our local community-based organizations to make folks aware, community members aware that the pilot is occurring, and if they're interested, encourage them to go to the online participant interest survey in order to enroll and show that they are interested, and that then goes to the University of Pennsylvania where the randomization occurs. So the more we engage with the CBOs in Urbandale, then the higher likelihood that you would have participants within the pilot.
Great.
And are participants only within the zip codes that are contributing to this funding, or is it bigger than those?
Good question. So because this is looking at the Central Iowa region, we wanted to be mindful of having geographic diversity as well amongst the pilot. So we determined it would be best to align with the Community Health Needs Assessment catchment area, which are the counties of Polk, Dallas, and Warren. This also then allows us to do comparative comparisons between some of that community health needs assessment data in terms of the demographics and whatnot to our pilot findings as well. So we were intentional about having that tri-county area be the geographic dispersion.
And again, remind me, what's the total budget you're looking at for all of this?
So it's 2.46 million. I was trying to run the numbers in the back there. Right now, we have 7 private and corporate entities who are committed to the project, and there are 4 public entities. You would be the 3rd to vote. A 4th will vote in September. With that anticipated support, we would have 70% of the total budget funds, which are $2.46 million, coming from private or corporate entities. So we really think that this is a strong way in which to show that public-private partnership and leverage of taxpayer dollars, with 70% coming from private funds.
And can you remind me how much is coming from Polk County and from Des Moines? Because I think those are the 2 that have already approved it, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So the city of Des Moines was the first to vote in July, and they have committed $500,000 of ARPA funds on behalf of the pilot project. Polk County shortly thereafter voted $250,000 of support for the pilot project as well.
And so 720,000 goes to the participants. What's the rest of the 1.7 million for?
Right. So I believe it's a 24-month intervention period. So that's what's so wonderful. Because we've had such strong public support, that's allowed us to unlock more dollars from the private funds as well. So we're able to do the 24-month intervention period, which I think is 1.3 million in actual funds that are going out to door to participants. The obviously largest part outside of spending the funds to participants themselves are for the research. So University of Pennsylvania Center for Guaranteed Income Research, they're standing up over 30 of these pilots across the country. So we definitely have the kind of economies of scale and the fact that their survey tools are already validated and they've implemented this and are efficient in their process. So that's saving us money by going with them as our lead researchers. They're working in collaboration with Des Moines University for local research support, as well as the Harkin Institute at Drake University, who is in charge of project coordination. So they're the folks who will be working with the participants throughout the project period, helping navigate whatever resources they may need, and keep them in touch with the project because it is a long time. So having that coordination is critical.
And so then we get to the end of the 24 months, get to the end of the study timeframe. What's that potential look like after? I mean, you find information, now what?
Yep. So the implementation period or intervention period is that 24 months. So you can work with me here. It's a 3-year total project period. Their last data point collection is at 30 months, and then we receive the report at 36 months. We'll have progress updates throughout that 3-year period, but we won't get that final report until the end of year 3. So we're anticipating that we're gonna have many community conversations like this with what we're learning throughout the period. For example, there is a small part of communications within the overall total budget to help a cohort of participants get some media training and be able to talk about their experience so that we're not waiting all the way to the end of 3 years to get a report. And also humanize what the experience is as well, instead of just having those specific statistical reports come at us. So we envision having those community conversations to talk about what does it mean to have this kind of sustained income help supplement what you're doing. In terms of what's next, I mean, the early findings that we're seeing from some of the other pilots are talking about improvements in from part-time employment to full-time employment opportunities, or from current full-time employment to a better full-time employment opportunity. Seeing reduction in experiences of anxiety or depression amongst the intervention group. Seeing an increase in access to preventive health services. So I think all of those findings then help inform us as decision makers, I would say elected officials on the policy side, but also from the philanthropic side on a resource investment consideration to say, what type of programs or interventions would it make most impact for us to be standing up with the dollars that we have?
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll move approval of resolution 220-2022.
I'll second it.
McGarvey Montgomery, second by McBurney. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 8.2 is to consider, to discuss the grand opening event signage opportunities. AJ?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you. We have this on the agenda tonight as a discussion item. We had planned to have it on one of the lunch and learns over the last 3 months, but your lunch and learns have become awfully full over the last time periods. And this was one item that was brought up by Councilmember Obrecht and I. We had a discussion, and it stemmed from some issues that we've had in the past where businesses have requested opportunities or have not even requested, they've just gone ahead and placed signage out for grand openings. And that is against our current sign ordinance. And certainly we want to be in a position where we can welcome new businesses. So we've had the discussion internally. And one of the things that we wanted to get a feel from council, a couple things. Number one, since we don't have this in our sign ordinance, is there an inclination to create opportunities for very specific grand opening events where signage would be allowed that isn't currently? You've probably seen them in other communities, and Steve and I have had lots of conversations about this. He's surveyed a number of communities, and it's fair to say that some have something, some don't. Some are very restrictive. And so the question came up is that how would we as a community want to approach this in allowing signage? You know, from a very, from the internal standpoint, if this is something the council wishes to go after, certainly having a very, very defined time period in which that signage can be out. This would be for a celebration of, I'm opening my new business, and therefore I want to invite you in, I want to advertise it, but one of the things that we are cognizant of is that sometimes when you give individuals or businesses opportunities, they have a tendency to stretch that permission time period out. And we've had to deal with that. And so we want to be cognizant of the fact that we want to celebrate and welcome new businesses, but we also have existing sign ordinances. We have existing circumstances where other businesses have opened, haven't had that opportunity. So again, just kind of testing the waters with you, and it's really, again, we've tried to schedule this on a lunch and learn. Is there an interest from us doing something? Because if there is, then Steve and his staff will put together a more formal draft agreement, draft ordinance that would allow for that. But I would tell you in advance that if there is some interest, that we would keep that window relatively small. Because again, it's to celebrate a grand opening. And that grand opening can be within, 2 to 5 days or something along that line. So it's not intended to be a month-long, 2-month-long welcome and type of thing. It is an event to celebrate, and then they would follow the existing sign ordinances that we have. So again, Councilmember Obrecht and I have spoken about this a number of times, trying to find a time in the lunch and learns. We just couldn't because of other schedules. So I said, we'll bring it out tonight just to see what interest, gauge your interest and how you'd like to approach this. No decisions have to be made tonight, but if there is a consensus, we can certainly put something forward for your consideration.
Well, I definitely think it's something we should look into formalizing. I mean, it sounds a lot like what we did during COVID, I think, with the chamber.
Yeah, we waived the sign ordinance.
Yeah, it's allowed it to be placed in locations where we normally wouldn't place it.
And I guess I think 2 to 5 days seems a little limited. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, like a week before, a week after or something. I don't know. But I would like us to also work with the chamber to see what their thoughts are on it.
I'm in alignment with Bridget. I think it's a good idea to have the grand opening. I think 2 weeks would be fine, just no fireworks. And so it's, or dogs.
We didn't think that 30-foot animal figures would be.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm in alignment. I think it would be good to reassess and give the option if possible.
I'm just curious about how extravagant we're looking. Like how can they have a 30-foot dinosaur hanging from their?
Quite honestly, from the staff perspective, we approached it much more conservatively.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Steve, you want to add to that?
12 inches, no.
I just want to make sure that if we're
Just so you know what other cities are allowed, in terms of animated displays, you know, the dancing man thing, the only city that allows that is Clive, and they limit it to 8 feet in height. Everybody else has, and it's kind of all over the place, some sort of additional signage. So that could be the feather flags that you see that are kind of like, some people call them D flags. They're on a pole in the ground and they kind of flap around a little bit. Those are pretty popular. Today, we have a couple opportunities. You can do, any retail business can do a temporary use permit twice a year, which is basically a sidewalk sale. You can have stuff that you sell inside, outside. You can get a permit to have a tent, have that activity in the parking lot. It's $30. You can do it twice a year. And you can have either the A-frame sign, the 6 square feet, or the banner up to 100 square feet attached to the building. Anybody can do that today. So it's not just limited to grand openings, it's any event that they would want to have. We also have the ability to do a conditional use permit, which Homemakers did in 2016, something, I forget now, fairly recently. And they got permission to do, I think it's up to 3 events per year, to close off a portion of their parking lot, have a couple of bouncy houses, you know, have some stuff out there as part of an event. But again, no additional signage other than the A-frame sign and the banner. So just curious what you're thinking, and maybe you don't know. You can think about this if you want to, that's fine. What kind of additional signage and or stuff are you thinking about in addition to those current opportunities that we have? That's the main question from us to put something together.
Just curious, when was this ordinance written?
The sign ordinance?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the most recent adjustment to it was in 15. It's been around for a long time, but it keeps getting tweaked.
Yeah.
Those opportunities I just mentioned to you, the temporary use permit and the conditional use permit's been around for a long time. The temporary use permit, I think, was in 15. It may have been in 12.
I think I was on the Plan and Zoning Commission.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I was on the chamber, and I think it was 6 when Paul Decker and I sat down and wrote the sign ordinance. So be careful what you write. Sometimes it comes back to bite you later.
It's been tweaked several times. The last significant tweak, I believe, was in 15, where this temporary signage opportunity came up, but it's been since 15, so.
Right. And just to get a little background on where this came from, there's a couple different business events that happened. One was signage allowing, hey, can I put up a little flag? Can I put up just something more than just an A-frame sign because people are driving by at 45 miles an hour? Right. And then the second was, I want to do a grill out in the parking lot type event to bring people in, and that got shut down. Probably could have done it a different way, that business could have, but it brought back this issue of our ordinance was very restrictive for that type of a business to do that. Yeah. And so.
The grilling event
and they,
thing.
you know, a neighbor, and it's one of those,
Yeah.
a neighbor complained, police got called, so upset business accordingly.
Yikes, okay. The grilling in the parking lot thing, that may have, I don't remember details of anything like that, but temporary use permit or conditional use permit, depending on the scope of what they want to do, that is most likely allowed today, but.
Right, well, it was a process, either the process didn't get followed, but it was that it brought it up that, hey, this is a place that we could be a little bit more business friendly at least to allow for a bouncy house, allow for a grill out in the parking lot, allow for limited signage that doesn't cause traffic hazards and interfere with things like that. So that was the genesis behind bringing this up of, can we open it up a little bit?
The two most consistent things that I see in other places that I would recommend if you want additional signage would be either another A-frame sign, more than just the one they're allowed to have today, or maybe some of these D flags, feather flags, and maybe limit that to a number. I think the time period, and again, it's all over the place. Some cities limit it to 5 days, depending on exactly what it is. There's only a couple of cities that really limit it to grand openings. So maybe we'd want to think about those temporary use opportunities that any retailer can do twice a year. Maybe we expand the signage for those too a little bit. We could certainly put some thought into that and bring something back to you. Or is this strictly, nope, this is just for a business having a grand opening. They want to do everything they can to let people know they're there.
And these would be for permanent businesses.
Right.
No, yeah.
Not a Halloween store, you're saying?
Sure.
I'd be open to more signage. I'm a little bit more I think, open to the idea. And this is just out of curiosity, just more than anything. Would be some guy like out there like flipping a sign, would that actually be like?
That is allowed today.
That is allowed.
That is allowed today, yep.
curious.
As long as they have.
Advertise progressive all you want.
Yep.
No, I'm not. I was just curious, like what is in anyway. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
I
long
mean,
as they are holding the sign, that is allowed today.
Yeah.
I'm more open to it, and Steve, I know you and I have had conversations about signage in the past, and I think that our signage ordinance in general needs to be revisited, but that's my own personal opinion, but I'd be
I
more
wouldn't
open
disagree
to
with
it,
you.
so long as we don't have, like a 30-foot gorilla that's floating off somebody's roof, the giant inflatable one that, that-
Yeah.
yeah.
And our research, it's hard to find research in this type of category, but the research that's out there says that doesn't work anyway.
Yeah.
It's the activity that people see that brings them in, which is the tent in the parking lot, some maybe people standing in the parking lot, some stuff in the parking lot.
Balloons, a grand opening sign,
Right.
Smell of the grill.
grill, yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we will put something together for further consideration.
So you're thinking in addition to just a grand opening, just maybe the temporary use permits have maybe some kind of additional signage for that too? And again, that's only twice per year per business, so it would be fairly limited.
I have no idea.
I guess
Okay.
defaulting to you to how to implement it best.
okay,
I mean, is
okay.
it,
Yeah, we'll put something together and bring some
I mean,
options back for you.
Has there been a lot of requests for them?
Honestly, we haven't. And when the one episode happened about a year ago with a business, I think he went to everybody. I ended up talking to the chamber, and I asked Tiff at that time, and she was aware of it. Yes, yes, yes. And I asked her then, and again, this has been about a year ago, maybe a little more than that. Do you get these types of requests? And at that time, she said no. I said, are you advocating for any kind of a change at this time? And she said no. And again, that was a year ago. So, and we as staff do not get requests for this stuff. So for whatever that's worth, I'm not opposed to adding something more. I just want it to be pretty limited because most everybody else is pretty limited and we don't think there's a request for it out there and the chamber didn't either.
well, and I'm starting to see realtors use those feather signs for
Right.
open houses and things that
Yep.
way too. So it's like,
Yep.
business we can't, but a realtor can.
Right. And yeah, and technically they're not allowed either. So.
Yeah.
The realtors have always
it an
been pretty
official
good. 95% of the realtors are really good about, even though a lot of their signage is illegal, it's out on Saturday or Sunday and then it's gone. So we don't even see it. That doesn't make it right.
Because they're really not supposed to have much more than this,
Just the yard sign, right?
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, we'll put something together.
so even though
Okay,
we're
yeah,
special.
we'll put some options together and bring it back to you.
All right, thanks, Steve. Item 8.3 is to discuss the 2023 capital improvements program schedule. Nikki?
All right, Mayor, members of the council, this item is also just a discussion. I was gone for the last lunch and learn, so we put it on this one to discuss. CIP is right around the corner, and the proposed change that's attached to the council letter outlines, this is more from a finance scheduling perspective. We normally start our internal meetings the same week that I'm trying to finish the audit and get it out the door. So in light of my sanity, I would request that that actually get moved back 1 week so that the audit is due on the 28th. And instead of doing that, we would start our internal discussions that following week. So effectively, it just pushes the schedule back 2 weeks for working through the CIP committee process. But what that does then result in is normally we would give that to council early December and you have a full 30 days to look through that. The process has changed quite a bit. We now have YouTube, it's all on video. A lot of the council members actually attend the full CIP committee meetings, so you've kind of already had that time to digest. And so my question is, do you still want that full month to review it, or are you comfortable with 2 weeks to receive the documents and then still have the same adoption day based on our timing for budget and going through that process? We still want it to be done, so we would still schedule that CIP approval either at the 10th or the 24th of January meeting. So it just limits how long the physical document is in your hands for your chance to review it. If adding those additional 2 weeks has provided much benefit, or we're just using the 2 weeks beforehand anyway to review it with the holiday and such in there. So it's just a suggestion at this time to try to condense that a little bit, slide it back a little bit, just so that we're done with one major document before we start moving on to the next one. And knowing that accessibility is there now that we didn't have in the past. If you missed the CIP committee meeting, there wasn't a recording of that such that you could go back and watch it. And I know a lot of you partake remotely anyway, so the question was raised, do we need a full 4 weeks or can we push that back?
I value your sanity.
I value my sanity as well.
I value it a lot.
It's just a really very condensed time, and I have my assistant finance director, Kim, is retiring in the end of December. So even better as I'm transitioning and hiring a new person that starts that week. So it would be super great for me to not be doing both of those things at the same time.
I don't think it's a problem to give it to us a little bit later.
So you'd receive it no later than December 23rd. Usually it's that Thursday or Friday. So you'd have it right before the holiday, but you have through the early January to review it. Or just come to the committee meetings because all the maps happen at that one. And everybody likes the maps to see what it is and hear all the commentary from staff. That is, I think, very valuable, but those won't change.
So when,
7 in the morning.
Yeah, the CIP committee meetings, that's a me sanity thing too. We don't do 7 a.m. anymore. They're after work at 5:45 instead. I don't do mornings a lot,
so what are the dates that we would need to have on our calendar?
So if you are not on the committee, you can kind of ignore the early dates other than the meeting number 1. So the last 2 years we've gone through it, actually the last 3 years, in one meeting and have not had to have the second meeting. So that's why that CIP committee meeting that would be December 1st is unlikely to be needed, but we'd like to have it on the calendar so that it's on the committee's radar.
Well,
We
it's just
haven't-
how it came in our packet,
It cuts.
the page divide was bad.
The third one down, 18th?
So we see
Oh,
dates, but
sorry,
nothing
it's
with
not
it.
on one?
Yes. So we see one dates on one page and that on the other page.
Well,
I see.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I see.
portrait versus landscape did not work well on that then.
No.
Sorry
So
about that.
somebody,
So I'm like-
maybe somebody needs some Excel training. I don't know.
No.
Yes, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, so it should have been sideways. You can look at my, if you want to, although I wrote on it, but.
We will redistribute it as well.
So that's where when I was talking to you, I realized my problem now. I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah, so normally,
Yeah, it's not.
yeah, so the CIP public hearing used to be on December 6th. It would be moved to December
us a second.
20th.
It needs to focus. There we go. Autofocus.
Whoa,
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so this column is the dates you would be looking at.
Thank you.
There you go.
And that's where AJ Nelsel talked to me with the potential of more decisions being made by the committee this year. Potentially, the second meeting is a higher likelihood to happen this year than in the past.
It could potentially. We won't have a lot of movement as far as probably room for new things. If anything, there's going to be some shuffling backwards. We're working through that process right now of upping all of our costs based on if it involves paving, the numbers going up.
Right, but with all of the movement and inflation and
Yes,
so forth.
it could have, it'll
the
take a
second
little
meeting
bit
is
more
a high,
time. Right.
more likely this year than it has been in the past.
Yes, and that is the other nice thing about having it in the evening, so we're not quite so hard on the, people have to go to work. So when we were doing it in the morning, there was a hard stop at 8:15, which is why we always went into that second and sometimes third meeting. Having it in the evening, as long as everybody's got some caffeine in them, we're able to kind of push through it and get through it. So yes, that's why we always put the second meeting on there. I really wouldn't think we'd need a third meeting, but yes, both of those dates could potentially have, and we reserve council and all chambers and such to do all of that. So your 2 week is cut off down there at the end. December 23rd is the latest date. Obviously, we'd try to get it to you as soon as we can, but the public hearing is on the 20th. So it's pretty close to that time. There's not normally much in changes. We technically could probably get it to you right after the public hearing if there are no recommended changes. So that's kind of why, it's pretty much done by then. And then we have some flexibility on the 10th or the 24th to do the CIP hearing for you guys once it comes to you. So that's where those 2 dates fall in. And then we do our work sessions. Nicole, do you know what the date is, that Saturday in January? It's the 20-something. So budget work session is after that.
Which, that was gonna be my follow-up question. Do we have the 2023 calendar? And I just haven't put it in my my
Well,
calendar yet.
It's in review right now.
We had that discussion. I think Nicole's just finishing it up. so.
Okay.
Yeah. But tentatively, that budget work session is that Saturday, January
The 28th.
28th.
Yes.
Yes. So it will still be done prior to that because that's what rolls all into mine. Because I've pretty much scheduled budget stuff, the prelim CIP, I factor all of that in. So that is pretty much solidified by here. We would adjust based on the budget work sessions, but the CIP document would be done and adopted by then. So I know what my debt service stuff looks like. Questions on that?
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the end of the regular agenda. So Mayor and Council items, Adam? Sorry.
Yes, so this Saturday, we have an Eagle Scout finishing up a project at Cross Creek Park, putting in new benches. They did landscaping and took out some invasive plants. So Gabe Rinkin is his name, and just wanted to say thanks to him for that, as well as for the city staff for dumping multiple loads of mulch and that the scouts got to move around. So great help from city staff to get the project done, but also great help from the community to get us some new seating and a nicer park.
Great, thanks. Happy birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, I assume we didn't have any issues that came from the hailstorm, at least that hit Urbandale.
Nothing significant. It was interesting that during the height of the storm, several of us in a meeting, it was raining very hard, while at the same time it was hailing down at Valley West Mall. So we really didn't have anything significant, according to the park staff or the police department.
Right.
There might have been some minor street flooding, but really nothing that you saw in the news happened here.
Fantastic.
My daughter's car was shredded, but
Oh, I did see that.
Was it here?
no, she was in Clive, but
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, my gosh.
yeah. Bridget,
Can you get back to us, maybe in your Friday email, about Leo's concerns related to
Beside the trail?
the trail?
Mhm.
Just found out that the Fast and Fresh at 156 in Douglas opened, not Douglas, Meredith, so many Fast and Freshes.
yeah,
That opened today, so,
I drove by there first thing, I saw that.
so you were out in my neck of the woods.
Did they have a grand opening sign?
No, they just had a little, A-frame sign right up against the building. So
Yeah.
I drove into the parking lot to see what it said. Because this is the third one in about a month, so I kind of know they're on my path.
MO.
Their MO. I kind of have. And if you have not been to the one at 142nd in Douglas,
Where were you at a coffee shop, man?
Smoky Row.
Well, I know, but you don't drink coffee. My wife did. Oh, okay.
well, so the one at 142nd Street, the Smoky Row, is very nice. And they have like dollar scoops of ice cream for the rest of the month, till the 28th, so.
Some of us don't drink coffee, but drink tea and hot chocolate, so.
Some of us have birthdays and need ice cream.
Yes, exactly. But they close at 8. So, I was really impressed with this, I don't know if they're calling it the Loop, but the housing, the apartment complex. I'm really excited to see that, especially in the urban loop. Those are the kind of uses I think that I would love to see after the investment that we've made in that area. And then I was wondering what the follow-up would look like from the Lunch and Learn last week on the environmental stuff, for lack of a better term.
Greenhouse emissions.
Greenhouse emissions.
Great question. One of the reasons why we had a little bit of a gap there, we were hoping to have a little bit more conversations with you folks on that. John and I have talked about that. I think we may forward you some suggestions and then schedule some additional time for you to talk about it and see how those fit in with how you would like to approach this. There was a lot of information.
Yes.
The young lady spoke very fast. And whether she was excited or I'm not sure, but
Maybe she's ready to be done with her job.
yeah, she mentioned she was going to retire, so maybe that might have been it. But she had a lot of information. The information's very good. there's a lot of options for you to consider, and so we'll take a first stab at some basic outlines, but it really is going to require you folks to give it some thought as to how you want to move this forward as a council, any changes that you want to make. Certainly a lot of things that you consider.
Well, I think it's important that we have some of those decisions made before we turn things over to Nikki here in November.
Well, I think we can probably just have it get it as a discussion item, just like we did on a couple of these other ones. Just don't wait for another lunch and learn. Let's get it as a discussion
Okay.
item. First of all, then I think, we're all at the table too. I think it'd be good to be able to discuss that.
We will, John's shaking his head, so we'll be discussing this tomorrow and find a time that, when we have a lighter agenda, that gives you more time to have some meaningful discussion.
And then logistically, because this was kind of the raw data, they were talking about there's a climate survey that on top of it that can be done. Didn't they say something along that line?
John, can I call you up for a quick, John is our greenhouse emission expert.
Well, well, like on how to implement the changes or how to get to a certain point. Like,
Mayor, member of the council, I think it's on, yes. You received the greenhouse gas emission report, which was your baseline.
yeah.
From that, there is a need to establish a greenhouse gas emissions goal reduction strategy.
That's what
And that typically comes first or can be done at the same time you do a climate action plan. The recommendation that will most likely come to you is to establish the goal first. That helps when you do the plan to say, where do I want to be? And then what are the steps to get there?
Okay.
So that is discussion that we'll need to have at maybe the September 6th meeting. So
Perfect.
any questions further on that? No.
Nope, just needed the logistics. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all I had.
All right, that's fine. I'll make sure. Matt?
She covered a lot of what I wanted. So I was following up on, you just take all my ideas. No, I do agree that that project on Plum is great. I would love to just see just multiple of those, all right down that line with commercial and high density. I think that's great. I do want to, again, I said it publicly on my social media, but kudos to our first responders. Last Friday, my daycare had a supposed gas leak apparently, but we had our first responders, we had police out in the front of the daycare getting parents in and out. We had a fire engine there, people going in and out. So I just want to say kudos to our first responders for being very professional, handling some crazy parents and kids, and appreciate their work.
All right, thanks, Matt.
That reminds me, I also wanted to give a shout out to the first responders. My cousin had an incident over the weekend, and he went to the Urbandale community page to thank the firefighters by name and the EMTs. So given that I have this forum, I thought I would also echo what he said publicly, and I had forgotten until Matt said it.
All right.
It almost feels like Chief Holt should be here because we too had to call the fire department. Our fire alarm went off at 3 o'clock in the morning on the Wednesday before we were leaving town, and we didn't know what was going on. So fire department responded and went through the entire house for us, did a full sweep, and just a wonderful job, especially considering, again, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty sure we looked like zombies. Also, I just want to say that I'm extremely excited to see that we passed the 2080 agreement for Mid-Iowa Health Foundation. It's nice to see some of those ARPA funds start to go out. I think that's going to be an excellent program to kind of pilot here in Iowa, especially because I feel like it can do a lot to help the scientific side of it. And then, yeah, just seeing those ARPA funds start to go out the door, and hopefully we can get the rest of them on the agenda to start getting those moving out.
All right, thanks, Larry. I just have a few things. Again, it's start of school week. It was been my privilege to go to Urbandale last week to welcome back the educators. They always do that on the Friday before they start school, and there are close to 100 new educators just in the Urbandale School District this year. So, which I think is the most I've heard on. But they had a lot of new faces there, but they were excited to get started, and I know the kiddos are back in school. And Just a couple dates to get on your calendar too. I'm not sure if this has been circulated yet or not, or if not, we'll get it out. But just to get them down on your calendar, October 1 is going to be Run for the Badge. So we're just getting that organized this week. We'll get more to come on that, but get that down on your calendar Saturday morning. And then October 22nd, I believe, from 10 to noon is going to be the Parks and Public
Works open house.
Facility open house and dedication for that, so.
What was the date on that one?
The 22nd, October 22. So October 1 for Run for the Badge, October 22 for Parks and Public Works Facility. And with that, I don't have anything further, so ask for a motion and a second to adjourn. Motion by Blake, second by McBurney, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.